This man is working 6 meters above deck. A fall could kill him. He should be wearing a safety harness. Why isn't he?
Look, I'm good at this, and the job takes twice as long if I have to use all the equipment. The chief wants results, and I make sure he gets them. Besides, my mates will make fun of me if I use it. Who needs it? Oi! Who needs it?
Personal protective equipment, PPE, is there for a good reason. It saves lives and prevents injury, pain and suffering even in the best run operations. Always use it and don't let pressure from others put you off. After all, it's your health, livelihood, maybe even your life on the line. But for PPE to be effective, you need to use it properly. Otherwise you end up in the worst of all worlds.
Oh? How'd you make that out?
Simple. If you think you're protected, you take more risks than normal. So remember, PPE only provides you with a certain level of protection. For instance, if you stand under a suspended load and it falls on you, no hard hat is going to make a difference. Proper risk assessment and safe working practices should be the first ways you protect yourself. Then, if you use PPE as the last resort it was intended to be, it may save you from injury. But you'll need to use it properly. There are some simple rules. Want to hear them? Keep items with you that you use all the time. That way, they're always to hand.
Like this, you mean?
That's right. Next point. Don't use substandard PPE. Your employer should make sure you have the PPE that's right for the job.
Right.
And you have a duty to yourself to check that it's in good condition. And to make sure that you use it properly, in the right situation and in the right way. That includes wearing it properly with zips and straps done up and so on.
Yeah, that all makes sense.
But the most important thing to remember is, a lot of PPE is designed with a very specific use in mind. So always make sure that you're using the right kind. If you don't, you could really injure yourself. Look at those goggles.
They're safety goggles, aren't they? I get it. It's the vents.
That's right. Use those when you're washing chemicals off a bulkhead with that high-pressure hose, and one gust of wind could blow enough moisture through those vents on the side there to permanently damage your eyesight.
Thanks.
Never take a chance if you're not sure. Stop what you're doing and go and check with your immediate chief. Or failing that, your safety officer.
Is that everything?
Yes. But there's one thing that's worth saying twice.
Let me guess.
PPE is a last resort. Remember your training. Follow the principles of risk assessment and your own company procedures, and hopefully you'll never need to rely on protective equipment to save you. Three men doing an ordinary day's work. Do any of them look as if they're in danger of a head injury? Or are they properly protected? What about this man? Is he taking proper care of himself?
No chance of me getting my hair caught in the machinery, all right? Don't panic. I'm not really doing a dangerous job.
And what about you? What do you think?
Well, I suppose.
Okay, so what about this man?
Look, I'm wearing a hard hat, aren't I?
Yeah, he is, so he should be all right.
And this man?
Never without it. I ain't taking no risks.
Yeah, he's definitely all right.
Well, let's see, shall we? Head protection can stop you getting injured in lots of situations. Hard hats protect against falls, impact with fixed objects, things falling on you. But you have to be wearing one. Looks like he was doing a dangerous job after all. But it isn't enough just to wear head protection. You need to wear it properly, or it could still be useless. Yes, that's right. Don't be like this man. Make sure that it's a good fit. It should be comfortable, and you should be able to adjust the headband and any straps easily. Get familiar with it and wear it properly, because if you don't, it won't protect you at all. Even if you thought it would.
I see what you mean.
So now you've got the right kind of head protection, you're wearing it properly, what else can possibly go wrong? Make sure that it's in good condition as well, or you're due another surprise.
Right, careful!
The chemicals in glue and marker ink cause deterioration to the shell of the helmet. So does sunlight. You may not have realized that, but it's true. Personal protective equipment, PPE, that's defective fails to prevent injuries like this every day, so treat yours properly. Store it properly away from sunlight. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration. Paint, stickers, impact damage, scratches or cracks. Has it gone brittle? Check the date of manufacture. Is it due for replacement according to your company policy? If there are defective, unhygienic or dirty components that can be replaced, do that. But if there's anything else wrong with it, say if you know it suffered a severe impact, then get a new one. Always follow safety policy and use PPE when it's appropriate. The main type of head protection you'll come across is the hard hat. There's also the bump cap, which offers more limited protection, but it's not common. Whichever you use, you'll need to make sure that long hair stays out of your way. Hard hats can protect you against most kinds of impact. Whatever kind of head protection it is, make sure that it fits. It's comfortable. The shell is the right size and will take a thermal liner if you need one. And the headband and straps are easy to adjust. Any piece of PPE needs looking after if it's going to stay effective for as long as possible. Remember that if you don't do this, you may not be protected at all. So use PPE properly and, above all, work safely. Hand and arm protection is needed in a lot of very different situations. So, are these men protected? What about this one?
These are 3-layer gloves. I'd be stupid not to use them.
Is he right?
Sure, I wear them myself.
All right, so what about him?
Well, they're not perfect, but they're okay.
What about this man?
He's not doing anything he needs to wear gloves for. Listen up. I'll just order some of these from the stores, please.
And this man?
got my gloves right here.
Extremes of temperature are one thing hand and arm protection is often used to guard against. That's a very hot pipe he's working next to, but although he's wearing gloves, he's not properly protected because they don't fit him properly.
That's never happened to me before.
That looked painful. But not all the things that can go wrong with hand protection are so dramatic. A lot of people think of protecting themselves against metal splinters or pinched fingers, say, but gloves are also commonly worn to avoid contact with harmful substances of various kinds. Skin irritation and dermatitis are common hazards. The gloves this man's wearing are not the right ones. So every time he uses them, they absorb some oil, which ends up on his hands. Nothing to worry about? Mineral oils can contain cancer-causing agents. He's risking skin cancer.
Really? That's the last time I do that then, that's for sure.
If you think you're protected, you take more risks. So wearing ineffective protection is almost worse than wearing none, like this man. He's been doing a job he doesn't need gloves for. But now he's made the mistake of thinking he doesn't need to put any on just to move a couple of crates.
Okay, I know I said it was okay.
This is a job he does all the time, and he always uses gloves. But this pair have been lying in the bottom of a bucket that had corrosive chemicals in it before. His gloves have been damaged by the chemicals, and now they're no use at all.
I see what you're saying.
Here are some of the most important things to remember. There are many different kinds of hand and arm protection. Lots of very specific applications, so it's vital that you make sure you're using the right stuff, particularly where chemicals are concerned. The main things that it's designed to protect you against are dirt, cuts, abrasions and the like, extremes of temperature, and contact with harmful or dangerous substances which can cause a variety of serious problems. Use the right stuff. Change it if the risk changes. And never allow gloves you use for handling chemicals to touch parts of the body, equipment or furniture. Make sure the protection fits properly and that it's comfortable. Keep it clean and in good condition. After contact with chemicals, wash it straight away and make sure you follow company procedures. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration. If gloves have holes, cuts or weakened seams, if they're distorted or otherwise damaged by chemicals, or if they're too heavily soiled to clean, get them replaced. Remember, treat all personal protective equipment with care, and that way it will do the job it was designed for. So use it properly and, above all, work safely. Do any of these people look as if they're in danger of getting injured? It doesn't look as if this man's taking proper care of himself.
Look, I haven't got time to fetch anything. And anyway, I've only got a tiny bit to do.
And what about you? What do you think?
Well, I think he should stop and get himself some goggles.
Okay, so what about him?
Safety specs, mate. Not like that other idiot.
Yeah, that's right.
And this woman?
Can't do the job without it.
Yeah, she's definitely got it right.
Well, let's see, shall we? Eye protection can stop you getting injured in lots of situations. For instance, where there's a risk of impact from chipping, scaling, grinding, drilling, lathes, anything which can throw up debris. But if you're not wearing any, you could be in big trouble. You were right.
Yeah.
Anywhere there's a risk of splashes from chemicals, fine mists or sprays, dust, gases, they're also situations where you should protect your eyes. So this man's right to be wearing eye protection, but he's still not protected because he's not wearing the right kind. You weren't expecting that, were you? This woman's wearing the right kind of protection, but even she's not properly protected. Now, you're not going to see anything dramatic happen to her, but all the same, she's got trouble.
Oh? How's that then?
The face shield she's using is defective. It's not protecting her properly, and if she keeps on using it, she could damage her eyesight permanently. Defective personal protective equipment, PPE, causes injuries, some of them obvious, some not so obvious every day, so treat yours with respect. Store it properly. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration. Is it warped or brittle? Are there any scratches, pitting, cracks? Is it clean? Dirty lenses can cause accidents. If any defective or dirty components can be changed, do that. But if there's anything else wrong, then get a replacement. Here are the key points to remember. There are lots of different kinds of eye protection, including safety specs, goggles, welding filters, face shields. It's quite a list. They all offer different kinds and levels of protection, so check with your chief or your safety officer if you're not sure what you should be using. And if the risk changes, change the protection. Whatever kind of eye protection it is, make sure that it fits. It's comfortable, and it's easy to adjust anything that may need it, like the headband and straps. Any piece of PPE needs looking after if it's going to stay effective for as long as possible, so store it properly. Check it regularly for wear and damage like scratches, cracks or pits. Has it turned brittle? And change any parts, lenses say, that can be replaced if you need to. Otherwise, just change it for a new one. Remember, if you don't do this, you may not be protected at all. So use PPE properly and, above all, work safely. Ear protection is often disregarded by many people because the damage it is designed to prevent is gradual and often goes unnoticed. But the risk of noise-induced hearing loss is a fact of life, and proper protection is essential. If you don't use it, your hearing could end up like this. These people are all doing very different jobs. Some look as if they're properly protected, but are they? What about this man?
I've got my earplugs in, haven't I?
What do you think?
Dunno, it's very noisy, that thing.
And what about her?
I know what you're going to say. These things are really uncomfortable when you're sweating.
What about this man?
This is okay, isn't it?
The protection he's been wearing isn't up to the job. It's not cutting out enough noise, and, over time, that's had a serious effect on his hearing. And now that's turning out to be more than just an inconvenience.
Watch it!
Most noise problems are about prolonged exposure to only moderately high levels. When you're working in an uncomfortable environment, though, which isn't subject to constant noise, it's tempting to forget about protection. But it's always important. And that means being extra vigilant. This man's wearing ear protection, but the cushions in his defenders have perished, and they're not effective anymore. Here's a recap on all that. The main kinds of ear protection are muffs or defenders, plugs and caps. Noise-induced hearing loss is a slow process, so you need to protect yourself at all times. But don't forget to take the protection off when you leave the work area. If you can, use equipment like this that makes it easy to do so. Make sure that you use the right stuff and that it's properly looked after. Check that the protection fits properly and that it's comfortable. Keep it clean and in good condition. Store it properly. And dispose of it properly if it's done with. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration. If there are cushions, check that they're not deformed, brittle, perished, or simply missing. If there's a problem, get the gear repaired or replaced. Remember, treat all personal protective equipment with care, and that way it will do the job it was designed for. So use it properly and, above all, work safely. These people are all doing very different jobs. Some look as if they're properly protected, but are they?
I've got the gear on, haven't I?
What do you think?
Looks all right to me.
What about the stuff he's wearing?
Well, it could do with a clean, sure.
What about this man?
It's new, this.
That's okay, innit?
And what about this woman?
You're not trying to tell me this is wrong. This is the stuff we all wear.
A lot of protective clothing for the body is designed to protect against contact with chemicals and other hazards, so it's important that it does its job. But this man hasn't checked the suit he's wearing properly, and it's defective. And now this is a disaster waiting to happen. When he starts washing down with the high-pressure hose, he'll probably get soaked, and that means he's going to have very sore skin later. This man's not going to feel such a dramatic effect, but all the same, he's in contact with hazardous substances which are slowly being absorbed into his skin from his clothing, and which could well affect his health. The boiler suit he's got on is new, but he hasn't checked to see what kind he should be wearing. Now he's working next to a very hot tank, but his suit's made of a material which could melt if it's exposed to heat. You need to be wearing personal protective equipment that's in good condition, and it needs to be the right gear for the risk. So, is this woman safe? No, because what she's forgotten to do is make sure that the gear she's wearing fits properly.
Quick, put it in there. Just plunge it in. That's it, perfect. Keep it there.
Want to go over all that again? There are a lot of different kinds of protective clothing for the body. Many of them have a very specific application, so it's vital that you make sure you're using the right stuff, particularly where chemicals are concerned. Your chief or your safety officer should be able to help you. The main things that it's designed to protect you against are contact with harmful or dangerous substances like chemicals, vapors, fibers, dust and so on, all of which can cause a variety of serious problems. Extremes of temperature, contact with machinery and other hazards, splashes from oils and fats, and of course water and wet conditions. So make sure that you use the right stuff. Check that the protection fits properly, that it's comfortable, and that it allows you to move to do your job. Keep it clean and in good condition. After contact with chemicals, wash it straight away, and make sure you follow company procedures. Or, if it's okay for the conditions, you could use a disposable one. Store it properly. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration. If there are missing buttons or fastenings, loose belts or ties, holes or cuts, get the gear repaired or replaced. Remember, treat all protective equipment with care, and that way it will do the job it was designed for. So use it properly and, above all, work safely. Face masks are the most common kind of respiratory protection equipment, and they're among the most important. They won't help you in an oxygen-deficient environment. You need breathing apparatus for that, but they are very useful in lots of different situations. There's often no way for others to tell if you're using the correct kind of filter, so it's vital that each person makes sure they are properly protected. The filters used in face masks often only protect against a very specific kind of hazard. Dust, fibres, fumes, mists, vapours, particulates, low-level acid gases and so on. And this man hasn't changed the filter in his mask from the ammonia filter he was using earlier. Which means he's just done himself some serious harm. It doesn't matter whether this man's using the right filter or not. He's not wearing the mask properly, so it's of no use whatever. Another man who's going to wish he'd been more careful. Most respiratory filters have a limited lifespan. Like sponges, they can only absorb so much, so it's vital to keep records and observe use-by dates. If you don't, you could end up like this man, who's sweeping up chemical dust wearing an out-of-date filter. Here's the key points about face masks again. Make sure that you use the appropriate equipment. For instance, you should never use a nuisance dust mask to protect against harmful chemicals. Check that the protection fits properly and that it's comfortable. Take good care of it. Keep it clean and in good condition. Store it properly when you're not using it, preferably in a plastic bag, and observe company policy when you dispose of it. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration. Most filters have a limited lifespan, so keep records. If it's past its use-by date, or if it's worn or damaged, dispose of it and get yourself a replacement. Remember, treat all personal protective equipment with care, and that way it will do the job it was designed for. So use it properly, and above all, work safely. Is this man wearing adequate foot protection?
Don't be daft. I'm wearing safety shoes, aren't I?
And what about you? What do you think?
That's all right, isn't it?
All right, but shouldn't this man be wearing safety boots?
Yeah, I know, but mine are really uncomfortable. So if I can avoid using them, I do.
Think he's right?
Not really. I suppose it's all right for a while.
And this man?
Can't do the job without them.
Well, that's fair enough, isn't it?
Foot protection is easy to forget about, but it can save you from serious injury. For instance, where there's a risk of treading on something sharp. But nobody seems to have told this man that if he was wearing the right equipment, that's to say boots instead of shoes, he'd be protecting himself against one of the most common problems of all, knocks and cuts to the ankles.
Yeah. I never thought of anything like that.
Although the worst move of all is not to wear any personal protective equipment, particularly when there's a risk of injury through impact or crushing.
OK, you were right. I thought it'd be OK if he only had a couple of drums to move.
Splashes from harmful liquids, water and wet conditions are a common hazard. Although Wellington boots offer a degree of protection against all those things, if you haven't made sure of the condition they're in, you could end up in a pair with worn or greasy soles and fall victim to one of the most common accidents of all, slips and falls. Here's what you need to bear in mind. Defective personal protective equipment causes injuries, some of them obvious, some not so obvious, every day. So think about how you treat yours. Make sure it fits and that it's comfortable. Keep it clean and in good condition. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration. Look at everything: the laces, the seams, the uppers, and the toe cap. Check the tread for excessive wear, and make sure it's free of oil and grease. And store the footwear properly, away from artificial heat sources. If there's excessive wear or deterioration, for instance, if the toe cap is damaged, then get a replacement. Remember, treat all protective equipment with care, and that way it will do the job it was designed for. So use it properly and, above all, work safely.
Here you go.
Safety harnesses don't just protect against falls, they arrest them as well. It's an obvious and important function, yet they are often misused or ignored. So, is this man protected?
Are you kidding? Look at this lot.
And what about him?
Look, I know I should be wearing all that stuff, but it just makes everything take twice as long. I just don't have time.
And this man?
Don't tell me I'm wearing this thing for nothing.
You should always use a safety harness when there's a danger of falling 2 meters or more. But for it to be effective, it must be the right equipment. He's using a lanyard with a shock absorber, but it isn't secured high enough for a short drop like this. Before the shock absorber has a chance to break any fall, he'll already have hit the deck.
I thought that stuff was going to protect him.
Pressure of time, pressure from your workmates. Don't let them stop you protecting yourself. You may not have a chance to regret it. Use fall arrest equipment when you need to, and always check everything yourself. If you don't, it may not work in the way that you hoped, and that brings a risk of injury in itself. Here are the key points about safety harnesses. Make sure that your gear is properly looked after, and check that it's the right stuff. On short drops, that may mean using a fall arrest block like this. It gives freedom of movement, but will instantly lock in the case of a fall. Make sure the protection fits properly and that it's comfortable. Keep it clean and in good condition. Store it properly, away from potentially corrosive or otherwise damaging materials and artificial sources of heat. Check it regularly for damage and deterioration, particularly to any buckles and stitching. If it's worn or somehow damaged, or if you know it's been subject to a fall, make sure you get it replaced. Remember, treat all personal protective equipment with care, and that way it will do the job it was designed for. So use it properly, and above all, work safely.